My presentation today is titled, How to Not Fail When Building with Bitcoin. And you may think this is a silly title. It comes from the fact that there are a lot of ways to succeed with Bitcoin, and I don't have the arrogance to try to tell you how to succeed with Bitcoin, but I do have the arrogance to believe that there is enough information here to help keep anyone on track. Bitcoin is a unity, which means it's a single technology that solves a number of problems, but it doesn't do so directly out of the box. The work that developers do to build applications and that leverage Bitcoin's attributes and capabilities to create a truly global digital economy is important work for which we should all be proud to partake in. Now let's start off with a generalization. And like most generalizations, perhaps it's not entirely true, but many of those who believe in the possibilities of Bitcoin are what one could call savers for a future economy. That means that these Bitcoiners are future-orientated. And what do future-orientated people believe in? That in the future, the services they will be able to purchase with Bitcoin will be much better than what is available today. So if this generalization is true, then the Bitcoin users that believe in saving Bitcoin the most will want to provide better services to other Bitcoin users in order to gain more Bitcoins. These Bitcoin users understand the value of Bitcoin SV's future economy, and so they profit seek now to accumulate. Unlike with the Silicon Valley model, where it's generally become more about how well a startup spends its funding, that then allows it to raise more capital. With Bitcoin, it is instead about how good you are at expanding the Bitcoin economy, from which you can then profit in that expansion. We have seen some experiments lately with social media applications working to expand the economy within the social interactions taking place on these applications. This is great and should be recognized, commended, and attempted in as many ways as possible. And that brings us to how the Bitcoin economy grows quickly. And that is through the fact that Bitcoin enables Bitcoiners to serve each other better than dollar seekers can serve other dollar seekers. Economic growth in Bitcoin is really about learning. To understand this, we must realize that there weren't any less resources in the past. Really, the only difference between antiquity and now is that now we understand more about how to better use those resources. We obtain this knowledge through pricing our services, because pricing is a measuring stick that enables us to measure how well we serve our customers. And with that knowledge, we can grow our business and the Bitcoin economy. Of course, Bitcoin is really the ultimate measuring stick with which we can price anything to a microscopic level. So with Bitcoin, we can precisely measure how well we serve our customers in real time and use that knowledge to improve our business strategies and expand the Bitcoin economy much more accurately and quickly than the dollar economy. When I see applications that seek user donations to add features or support, I immediately think, why should I donate to improve an application when that feature is just going to make an application more profitable? Yet I do not get to see any of that profit myself. Solving funding issues through profit seeking is the best way to grow a business. And it would make sense that users who provide funding to add such features would be compensated by the profitable usage of that feature through a portion of that feature's revenue. By experimenting in ways like this, we can find great opportunities. Perhaps one of the most challenging aspects of onboarding to Bitcoin is that an individual most likely needs to purchase Bitcoins in order to acquire them. This can be difficult for those with no online banking, identification, lack disposable income, or just can't afford high purchase fees. By seeking out what others can offer for profit, particularly those who are limited to geographically or financially, and then building applications that allow those people to capitalize on their own ideas and knowledge or actions and time, we can provide the opportunity for people to support themselves and their families by earning Bitcoin. What excites me the most about Bitcoin is how it can be used to improve many lives across the globe by providing the infrastructure needed to build applications that can be useful to everyone, particularly those who have been left out of the global digital economy. Bitcoin offers the greatest chance to reduce poverty through opportunity. Using applications built on Bitcoin, the intellect of the poorest people in the world will no longer be the biggest untapped resource in the global economy. Perhaps the opportunities of Bitcoin will help to reduce terrorism and other antisocial behavior resulting from economic stagnation and impoverishment. I feel strongly that this will be the case. Bitcoin provides value and opportunity by enabling the types of applications that allow users to capitalize on their own and others' abilities and knowledge nearly instantly across the entire globe. It means that now anyone can participate in the global digital economy with a simple click. This is the beginning of a constant engagement that starts with Bitcoin. Whether it is during your exercise routine, during your traffic jammed commute, or during school recess, there will always be an opportunity to earn and spend Bitcoin 24/7, 365, in every corner of the planet. Personally, I'm not a fan of looking at big general social feeds. I'm interested in very particular topics. I feel online life was much more peaceful when I would just log into a forum that was focused on the topic I wanted to know more about. I was sad to see my favorite photography forum shut down and many others over the years. These sort of expert amateur reservoirs of knowledge and assistance are and were very valuable. And I would pay today to use an application that scours all the major social media feeds, videos, etc., for information pertaining to my chosen topics and delivering that in a single feed, thereby saving me precious time and energy. So instead of building new applications in order to take advantage of a small set of improved features, perhaps there is more to gain by building future-proof services that can draw upon a much greater ecosystem, or can be used across many different existing applications in order to make the user experience better and more individualized. We have taken the term interoperable to mean convertible, which means that a process must take place to change one format to another. often this leaves less than desired results. In this case, we must look to make our applications truly interoperable. Why? Because seamlessness increases velocity. And the more velocity, the faster the rate of improvement. In this way, time becomes compressed in Bitcoin, and the evolution of the Bitcoin ecosystem becomes faster than any other before it. It is best to embrace interoperability, despite it may seem scary to developers who are wanting to build applications that may be quickly outcompeted. That's because interoperability really does make it easy for users to move between applications and services. These days, the modus operandi for many traditional applications and platforms online is to entice and then entrap customers by making it difficult to switch platforms. Applications and services shouldn't be trying to trap people like some sort of house of horrors. With Bitcoin, the traffic and usage needs to come and stay based on what you are providing and how you are providing it. The bait and switch, particularly when it punishes users when they want to leave, doesn't work well with the voluntary, incentive-based nature of the Bitcoin network. Van Valen coined the evolutionary biology hypothesis the Red Queen race, from how the Red Queen described to Alice the nature of the land of the looking glass in the sequel novel to Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Now here you see, it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. In the biological interpretation, species must evolve or face extinction. Regarding Bitcoin applications, I interpret the Red Queen race as a necessity for applications to be in a constant state of improvement in order to maintain, let alone gain, capital and market share. This is why it's so crucial to measure as much of your application as possible by using the pricing abilities of Bitcoin. No matter how insignificant the transaction. In fact, the more insignificant the transactions you have, the greater your ability to find effective pricing for your more significant revenue generators. As well as you may find some of these insignificant transactions can be turned into great revenue generating opportunities. Ultimately, this means that Bitcoin-based applications must be able to adapt quickly. The core concept itself must be both legitimate and sustainable. And the developers must embrace a future-oriented development model. And for my final advice, and we kind of burned through this a little quickly, apologies for that. If you want to find a solution to a difficult problem you are encountering during development, it helps to appreciate, even enjoy the challenge of finding the solution, even if it's not the problem you want to focus your time on. Often, it is these unforeseen and undesired challenges that provide the most growth and opportunity. The solution itself may even result in profit. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to present to all of you today, and I'm happy to try to answer any of your questions. Apologies about the beginning there. I totally blundered that, but to my credit, it is a very early morning out here in the middle of the Pacific. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and hopefully there'll be some questions that we can pry apart here. I think ultimately what we need right now is the opportunity for people to earn Bitcoin. and there's a lot of ecosystem benefits to that, frankly, because really when people are able to earn Bitcoin, they become a greater part of the Bitcoin economy as opposed to somebody who is just purchasing it. And that's because, they're using it now in a way. And particularly if they're living in countries that are, or places that, lack the infrastructure to allow for users to engage in the current global digital economy. And so really, when we allow people to earn Bitcoin, they begin to spread Bitcoin. They begin to use it within their communities. If they don't have access to external currencies, for instance, digital currency, if you don't have online banking, but you want to do digital transfers, things of that nature, by getting people to earn it, they're more likely to partake in these kinds of things, as opposed to just kind of, keeping it as an investment. So I believe Marquez asked about building classified ads, and do you have any thoughts on that type of business model? Yeah, I think that is a very important one, because it falls under that category of being able to potentially earn Bitcoin. And I think, where that might be best is to be mostly revolving around digital goods and services, as opposed to physical goods and services at the moment, particularly just if you're looking to get off the ground quickly and not have to deal with some of the greater issues of ensuring that people don't get scammed. So we had a question here asking about having your early development covering real fees, as opposed to, I'm guessing, receiving venture capital or investment. So I think that's very important. Businesses really need to grow organically in order to really be secure in their model. Because if you're taking investment to build things, you're not particularly concerned with how that will actually create profit. You are concerned in the future, obviously, but I think what you need to be concerned at the moment, because when you're building it, you really need to ensure that it's profitable from the earliest point possible. And if you can't cover that development, then as I suggested, perhaps there's other ways where you could create a profitable opportunity for people to engage with the development of your app by funding and profiting from certain features. What is the best use case for BSV in an app? Well, there's a lot of great use cases for BSV in apps. It depends on what kind of app, of course, but number one, of course, is the peer-to-peer electronic cash. But of course, the fact that every single transaction is ultimately a record of an interaction taking place, then you can begin to, not just look at it as from the financial side, but you can begin to start to create very organized and highly specific data that can really fuel something quite big. In the case of I don't want to talk a whole lot about the application that I'm building, but really what we're looking to do is provide people the means to earn BSV through their own whatever resources that they have, and particularly their knowledge and their ability to kind of interpret what's happening in their environment. So I think when you're talking about being able to measure things, BSV is unsurpassed as a way to measure interaction and activity. Can you provide some more info to team up with Bitcoin app development? Well, yes. Number one in this space is proof of work. So people are, really interested in the projects that people are building and using those projects to kind of leverage their skills to become a part of a bigger project. So I would say perhaps one of the better ways to become known and to join into the ecosystem is to work to create something that will get you recognized a little bit. How does one build a stablecoin on BSV or one that tracks USD? Well, this is something that is being worked on by a variety of different teams. Really, it relies on the tokenization of dollars on BSV, and I think that is something really that needs to be. I mean, really, the infrastructure is what we need to create, what application developers and whatnot need to create, but ultimately, it is the government that fundamentally the United States government that controls the US dollar, or the Federal Reserve at least. And they are the ones that need to be able to understand the benefits of tokenizing US dollars on BSV. And namely, the benefits of it are that if we look at the value of the US dollar since essentially 1971, it's been mainly tied to the purchase of oil, and hence the petrodollar. And well, that is perhaps not the greatest, way to value the dollar going into the future. And instead, by tokenizing the US dollar on BSV, we can create new value for the US dollar by enabling people all over the world to use dollars down to, the sub-cent level, really. And by that increase of usage really is where the value will come to the US dollar, right? Because if the usage is coming from oil and nobody wants to buy oil anymore, or China wants to buy oil and yuan, then you need to find new use cases for the dollar. Any advice for people that program but don't have much experience running a business? That's a good one. Yeah, I mean, really, I think it was my number one advice, really. And if you take that in another way is, ultimately what you're doing when you're creating a business is you're solving a problem. And in order to solve a problem without really understanding all of the business nuances, you need to just kind of experiment. And the best way to experiment is to try to visualize the kind of outcome that you want, and then work backwards and from there to create a plan. And when you're at that beginning stages, you need to be ready to just accept the difficult tasks ahead of you. So if you're having trouble building things out, try to turn it into a profit-seeking opportunity. Always be thinking about, how can I make this problem profitable? That's number one. And you don't have to be some kind of business genius to just try to seek profit in any way you can. And the more ways that you try to seek profit within the development of your app, the higher likelihood you will find that that profit. Where do you see government legislation impacting development on BSV? I mean, of course, if you're dealing with the transfer of large amounts of money, you do have to be concerned with the law, frankly. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential sort of, well, already, I mean, here where I live, we have certain laws that, they were put on the books prior to the creation of, or at least to the release of Bitcoin. They still are highly effective at preventing any real usage here. And so it's an unfortunate consequence of a multitude of previous issues that have kind of made it difficult for a lot of businesses to operate within the Bitcoin sort of environment. Now, I think that really will probably see, if anything, a loosening of a lot of the restrictions, and perhaps the establishment of a much more sort of business-friendly legal basis within those nation states that are seeking to grow, because looking at the current economic climate, it appears to me that there's not a lot of vision for the future, and Bitcoin provides a very powerful vision for the future. And I think it's only really a matter of time until people begin to realize that. There's a comment here, just talking about some of the issues regarding laws accepting BSV and paying in BSV, and it's something that I believe, are working on. I mean, I can't speak much to that, but yes, there is a push to educate lawmakers in a way to understand better how Bitcoin works and how it can improve the lives of citizens all over the world. What are the common mistakes app designers make in the initial phases? I think one of the biggest mistakes really is, it's a mistake that I think just people make generally in life, and that is where they don't look for opportunities. They're looking to create their dream, which I think is wonderful. I think people should absolutely do that. But I think at the same time, you have to be aware of what are the real opportunities that exist right now that you can partake in. And I think by understanding that, being aware of that, and and attempting to deal with these kinds of opportunities as opposed to, you know, going for the moonshot, so to speak, it can separate those who are still quite new to creating applications from those who have a lot of experience. I think the more experience you have, the better off you are when you take these sort of larger opportunities. But I think, you know, start small and profit seek. And I don't mean start small in the sense of, you know, don't work to be big, but I mean, you know, don't bite off more than you can chew at any one time there. Yeah, so, you know, with the classified ads and illegal activity, how do I protect myself from something like that? Well, you know, there are, of course, Craigslist, right? And Craigslist has had extensive illegal activity taking place on its platform. I think really what you need to do is you need to minimize that as much as possible. You need to make it difficult, and you need to make it so that law enforcement can actually, you know, can if there is a crime committed using your platform, then you need to be able to provide law enforcement with the information they need to be able to do their job. And that's kind of probably where Bitcoin actually does a better job than, you know, than Craigslist, I'm sure. I mean, you know, because you have a record, an unalterable record of every single thing that occurs. Please provide some good examples of Bitcoin web app. I mean, really, web app. I mean, for me, I would say actually a really good, more on the wallet side, because for me, I think wallets are actually perhaps one of the more fascinating applications in some ways, because they're kind of our access point to the Bitcoin ecosystem and to the Bitcoin network. And so by building wallets in ways that allow you to interact more, I think that really is a great sort of application. And I don't want to name specific ones, but I'm sure people are quite familiar with some of the web wallets out there and what they're capable of. Originally, when I started working in Bitcoin, I was working with a point of sale company that was building a way for businesses to receive Bitcoin, but to account for it as fiat currency, cash, really, essentially, because it is cash. And really, that was what allowed me to begin to see a lot of the issues that at the time Bitcoin had. And I think that's, you know, important for developers too, is when you begin to build something, you can find a lot of problems, or really, I think, opportunities. So it's not so much, you know, your idea has to be perfect from the start. Really, what you need to do is you need to be building so that you can grow your ideas, explore your ideas, experiment with your ideas, and work to create something that is profitable for you and that grows the Bitcoin economy. Well, I think that's all, and I'm so happy to have been able to present to all of you. I hope you guys enjoyed this and found it useful. Everybody, take care. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.